Yes, it's important to know who you are, but it's more important to know who you want to be.
If you share with one person your voice, things will change.
And it's not going to be the things that you did that scared you or that cause you regret. It's the things that you didn't do.
The truth is it's not about you, and if you're holding yourself back, that's egoistic because you could change people's lives. Lebst du schon, wer du wirklich bist? Willkommen zu The True Me Podcast. Wir sprechen hier über alles, was dich aus dem Gefühl der Überforderung und des Feststeckens zu einer klaren Vision und Aligned Action bringt. Mein Name ist Tiffany und ich begleite dich auf deiner Reise zu deinem True Me, denn dort wartet Freiheit, Leichtigkeit und Erfüllung auf dich. Welcome back, my loves, to the True Me podcast. And I'm always telling you, my life is like a movie. And this podcast, I think, is the proof of alignment and a movie. So the person that is here, I don't know anything about him. I met him literally 5 minutes ago because my other guest that I meant to interview was like messing up the days. And there was this tall guy smiling and was like saying, oh yeah, here and there. And he was in an interview before. And there was this beautiful girl and we started talking. And it was like, I'm sorry, my guest was like, it's not coming. Would you mind hopping in? And so I'm as excited to get to know this person as you. The only thing I know is that his name is Josh, and he is training people for public speaking. And as you know, I always look at energy, and I felt like, okay, I feel like this person knows what he's talking about. So today we're talking about public speaking, about expressing yourself, and I think we can learn a lot. So welcome, Josh, to the True Me podcast.
Thanks for accidentally having me. Yeah, I think it's beautiful because I think my life is definitely a movie as well. And I was about to walk out the door saying my goodbyes, and then here's Tiffany standing in the door, be like, hey, my guy didn't show. Could you help? Are you busy right now? So, yeah, it's really beautiful. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being so spontaneous. Maybe we start like from the scratch. You're Josh. We're here in the Dubai studios. As you can see, normally I'm always filming in Bali, so now we're again back in Dubai. So are you living in Dubai, or where are you living? What are you doing?
I love it. Okay, do you want a story or do you want facts?
I love stories.
Love stories? Okay. So
and I think as a public speaker, we should take on with stories, right?
Let's try to do the stories then. Okay, so if you don't know me, my name's Josh, and none of you do, but that's fine. Many people, when they see me nowadays and they see me hopping on stages, they see me coaching people and training people to become better speakers and how to connect and communicate, and then leads to sales and stuff as well. They think that it was something that was really natural for me, like I was born with that ability. And the truth is, I was never really like that. It took me a very, very long time. You know, when I was young, I was overweight, I was shy, I was bullied, I was afraid of the world, I was afraid of people. And what I truly wanted deep down was to actually feel connected to people. And most of my life I never felt that. Mm. And when I say that I was shy, I really genuinely mean that I was very, very shy. Like, imagine that you're at a family reunion and you lock yourself in your room because you're too afraid to speak to even your family members. But that's the level of shy that I was. And I remember I see my brothers perform a couple times and they're singing and the whole crowd was entertained and excited and dancing and laughing and connecting. I was like, that's what I need to do. I need to learn how to do music so I can connect with people. So I started learning music, and music became my way to express a piece of myself, but it was also a bit of a shield to prevent myself from fully sharing who I was and how I felt and what I had to give to the world, because I always knew that I wanted to make an impact, but I didn't know how I was going to do it. Fast forward, I get to Dubai, That's its own story. Everything's its own story, but that's its own story. I was 22 and I'm still really afraid to meet people. And I would tell myself, okay, Josh, in between your sets of music, you're going to meet one person at a table. You're just going to say hello, just hello. And so I'd go to walk towards the table. I can feel my hands already starting to sweat and they're just feeling clammy and my heart starts to race in my chest and I get the pit in my stomach and I go towards the table and I start to I just put my hand behind my head and walk away. And most people think that it's not really an issue, right? It's okay to be shy. But this was affecting every area of my life. It was affecting my ability to connect in friendships and relationships. I was losing business opportunities. I wasn't making opportunities or connections or network because I was so afraid to speak to people. And these are the sort of moments where I realized something needs to change and something needs to change quickly. And this was about 7 or 8 years ago now, maybe a little bit more. And I decided that if there was somebody else or in the world, anybody who had ever been shy and nervous or afraid of people or insecure, or they don't give themselves to the world, and if there's one single person out there that's done it, that's become confident and being able to express themselves and connect, then if they've been able to do it, then maybe there's a way for me as well. So I hopped onto YouTube, like you do, and you type in how to get better at communication, and then you have 36 billion results show up or something. You're like, it's a lot of information. It's very overwhelming. So I'm going to just watch Gossip Girl instead. I never watch Gossip Girl, just by the way. XOXO. And I would just sit on the couch and do that. And then something else would come up and I'm like, oh, I've got to meet 15 people tonight. What are the best questions to ask people when you meet them? And I hop onto YouTube and again, 56 million results. And I don't do anything. And eventually, it wasn't until I realized that nothing was absolutely changing. And the only way that it was going to happen is if there was some sort of course, a process, a trainer, or a mentor, or a coach that could actually help me, guide me along the way and share with me, watch what I'm doing and say, okay, your body language sucks, Josh. Let's fix that. Okay, learn to smile when you speak, Josh, because right now you're just staring at people when you talk. And I'm like, oh, really? Am I doing that? I need to start to smile a bit more. Oh, but now you need to use your eyes as well. Oh, okay. Right. And I started to learn all these little micro skills that eventually allowed me to take the thing that was the most scariest thing in the world, which was connecting to people and sharing my experience and communicating, and to be able to take it from that thing that was my biggest fear and place it into what I now believe is my biggest superpower. And since I've done that, I've been blessed to be able to have multiple TEDx talks. I've trained thousands of people. I've been able to work with CEOs, high performers, achievers. I've worked with people who are really, really shy and really, really nervous that have full transformations over a couple of days. And I never thought that this sort of thing was possible for me. And because I know the impact it's made in my life, I know that it can help others as well. Yeah. And I know that I don't need to be the loudest voice in the room. I know that I don't need to be the one that is the best speaker in the world forever. What I can do is train somebody else up whose voice isn't showing what they actually feel. Yeah. And they might be able to be the person that can make an impact that can last and shift a culture and shift a generation, because it all starts with the communication. It starts with you.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your story and for being open about that. I think that a lot of people underestimate how much they miss out on life if they don't express who they are and what they have to say. And I think that this is a skill that you cannot learn it in school, you cannot learn it in university. So I think that most of the people only change if they feel a lot of pain. So what I often see with women that I work with, they feel like I don't even have to train it because it's not important what I have to say, or it doesn't have an impact. What are the things that you mainly see in the people you work with? So it's like are they already at that point where they're like, no, I want to express or I want to connect, it's important? Or is it they feel like, okay, I just need some communication skills? Or what is the point where they reach out to you?
I have women of different levels that join, and I have people that some are shy, some are nervous, some of the version of me that I used to be. Some already a bit further ahead in their communication journey. Some don't even know why they're coming, but they know it's necessary in some area of their life. And what they notice day one is how much of an impact it can have. So to give you an example of that, I've had a couple of beautiful local women that came to my events, the local meaning Emirati here in Dubai, came to my event and they didn't even know what they were using it for, working in engineering, corporate and that sort of thing, right? Yeah. And they're like, okay, I'm going to go to this public speaking course. I don't know what I'm going to learn. Maybe it's a couple of tips and tricks and stuff like that. By the end of day one, they told me that it's had the biggest impact on their life than they've ever had. And they realized that their voice and their message actually is powerful and they can share something. And now something has just unlocked and opened in them. By the end of those 3 days, they were sitting there and actually crying and being like, this has been the most impactful thing. And it's brought back a piece of myself that I thought was lost. And that's one side of the story for some people. Other people, they want to just absolutely rock the stages and motivate and inspire. And there's frameworks and there's ways to be able to do that. And so you take them who are already decent speakers. They're not afraid of speaking in public, but they just want that extra level. That extra next level in their communication. And so we take them on how to be able to tell stories that inspire action, to be able to connect in a way that truly resonates with people, and how to control, influence, and persuade and engage with the crowd so that you don't lose people's attention ever.
Yeah.
So it depends on what level that you're at. That's what we train with. And the beauty of the program that we do is it goes over 3 days. And it follows a structure that everybody uses for the 3 days, but you have your own twist on it. So by the end of it, it's such a supportive, beautiful community and space that you see transformations happen in real time.
And for example, these Emirati women, I think they didn't come because they want to be a public speaker or they want to be on stages. So I think that's the even more interesting part. So what is their kind of transformation? Because speaking and having an impact doesn't mean you have to be on stage or you have to be a coach or you have to be a leader or anything, right? So how did that impact their life, or how do you see it impacting people's lives without being a speaker or on stages or a leader?
Well, the Emirati women, for example, they'll go into meetings now and they've told me that nobody speaks over them anymore. It's like their voice really matters and that they're able to start leading, whereas before that never felt possible. A couple of them also started TikTok channels and started recording themselves. Wow. Maybe not showing their full face and everything, but doing B-roll, where before that felt impossible. You know, like what if I share myself and what happens? And now they're coming from a place of action and transformation, inspiration. It's so beautiful to watch, honestly. I sit in the back when they're starting to do their talk, and I'm obviously supposed to be coaching them, but I get lost in their stories and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, give it up. And everyone starts clapping, and it's like, it's sometimes the people who are the shyest that have the most power when they speak as well, because they just, the whole room just gets dead quiet. They're like, oh my God, you have so much power. Yeah. So there's those sort of moments where, yes, you might not think that you're using it to speak from stage, but it affects every area of your life. Because if you want the world to treat you differently, it's not going to happen without you doing something. Yeah. And a lot of the time, people don't realize that the way that they speak, their tonality, their body language, how they hold themselves, it's affecting how people perceive them. It just really is. And small shifts of language, small shifts of questions can either shut down a connection or open endless possibility. And when you start to recognize these things, you start to hold keys to connecting with anybody that you never thought were possible. I didn't think it was. And now that I see it from the outside, you can never unsee it. So when people are blocking themselves in life, I see their communication style being the thing that holds them back. The way in which they speak, the way in which they attempt to connect, or the way they get defensive and shut down, or the way that they overplay their strengths or overplay themselves and try to be bigger than they are. And people are always picking up on how you present yourself. So if you want to be able to shape your reality, it's always going to start with communication. And seeing that, the reason why I tell you this is because seeing that change in people is addictive.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that you hold the power based on
Yeah.
how you express yourself to the world.
It's interesting because I don't have a problem, for example, to hop on a podcast or to go on stage, or like since more than 8 years, I'm like having big crowds, small crowds, everything. But what I struggle with is like the small circles, not when I'm a coach, but when I'm private, when I'm Tiffany. So I have a friend, for example, no matter where she goes, she's connecting, and she's going to the nail salon, she's coming back with three new friends. So when I go somewhere, and I'm trying to like, okay, I'm open, I'm connecting with people, I feel like I get a lot rejected. So also when I go to like an event where you should network, I have a really, really hard time to do that. So I feel like I'm really shy if I'm not in the job I'm in, because I feel like, okay, when I'm in my job, I know these people want to learn from me, I'm leading them. But in private, that's actually a big issue for me. So maybe you have some insights on that, because people from outside, if I tell them I'm shy or like I have sometimes trouble to connect with people, they don't believe me. They're like, what do you mean? You're on stage since you're 5, you're dancing, everything.
Yeah.
But for me, sometimes I feel very lonely in like a big crowd because I don't know how to connect with them. Specifically not on a business level.
So the personal side, yeah. The good news is you're not alone here as well. For me, I mentioned before, growing up, I was overweight and shy and everything, so I get it.
Yeah.
Speaking to people used to be the hardest thing in the world. And now it's effortless. I don't know if it felt pretty natural when we connected as well, right?
I mean, I invited you to my podcast after knowing you 60 seconds. So I mean, that you're here is to prove it works, right?
Yeah. And there are basic little things. I'll give you a couple of practical things in a moment, but in terms of one of the things that has changed my connections and ability to connect with people the most has been setting intentions before I even start. When I'm at home, I'm not thinking about, I'm intentional about everything. But when I'm going into public and I'm seeing somebody walk in, or I'm meeting somebody, my intention is always to leave people in a position of increase in energy, positivity, feeling, inspiration. It's always to elevate other people in some way. And that starts with the basic things, like a smile. Just smile when you meet people. Hey, it's really nice to meet you. Or, hey, I'm Josh. And starting that off, you've already got a positive attachment. And if my intention from the beginning is to make your day just a little bit brighter, the conversation naturally gets better. And there was a study done that people who were really, really afraid of connecting with people and networking, they wanted to have deeper connections. They wanted to have deeper networking abilities. What they would do is they'd write these questions on a card, the really interesting questions, and they'd put it into their pocket. And they'd go to the networking event, and what they'd find is they'd start having these really deep connections and these really deep conversations they'd never really had before. They never used the card. So the intention of improving our communication will naturally make you better at it. And it starts with your intention. It starts with your focus and what you're focused on. So for me, it's intention. Now, in terms of practical tips, outside of that being fairly practical, you can use a method called FORD, F-O-R-D. Okay. At the end of the day, if you're speaking the whole time, you are actually less interesting than if you're getting them to speak. So you can be the most interesting person in the world by barely saying anything. I'm on your podcast, so I'm speaking a lot, but normally I'd be doing the opposite. If you get people to speak about themselves, and we've probably all heard this, then you become more interesting. People's favorite radio station is 101.me. You know, if you can get people to speak about themselves and these 4 specific things, then they'll start opening up about anything. So F is family. Speak about their loved ones, the things that they like, or about them. You know, if I ask you about your siblings, have you got siblings, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah, how many?
2.
2 brothers, sisters?
One brother and one sister.
One brother, one sister. Are they similar to you as well? Or are they like really excitable, or what are they like?
It's really complicated with my family, let's say it like
That's
that.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
In terms of complication, then family might not necessarily be the right avenue, so you can probe to see where it is. So that's one of the four things. The second is occupation. The things that you spend the most time doing is generally your work. Around 70, 80% of your life is your occupation. So why not ask people about that? So what got you into doing this? And that opens you up for a story about why you do your occupation. What's your favorite part about it? Do you go to bed and can't wait for tomorrow? Or do you go to bed waiting for it to finish and you're like, oh, I don't want to go tomorrow? Or, do you see yourself in this job forever? Asking about their occupation. That will get people to start opening up, but not just basic stuff like, what do you do for work? No.
Yeah.
It's what do you feel about it? What got you into it? What excites you the most? What drains you the most? Actually asking deeper questions. The R is recreation. So what do you do when nobody's around? Nobody's looking at you. What do you do? Do you have any hobbies that you picked up? Any bad life choices recently? Feel free to open up questions to get to know people on a deeper level. And then the last one is their dreams. So a good question is, what's your big goal for this year? If you could achieve anything this year, what would it be? Or if you could do anything for a year where money, time, location, people weren't attached, what would you do? Now you have endless questions. You have endless potential in a conversation based on 4 topics. I still use this when I meet people. If I find, it's getting a bit silent and a little bit awkward or something, like, what are the 4? Family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. Which one of them haven't asked about yet? Or which one can I go deeper into? And that will learn to trail the conversation in any way. And I can say less. And people will then have a really positive light after they meet you because they feel connected. So I hope that helps.
It does. It definitely does. And I think what I feel when I get into these situations is like, okay, I want to make other people feel seen.
But you get lost in the process?
Yes. And if they ask me a question, like, I feel like, okay, I get lost in what I'm saying. So there's always like this balance, and where I feel like, okay, I want to make them feel seen. But I think because my intention is so much to make them feel seen, I'm not grounded in myself. And I usually don't know that about myself. So this is a part, it only gets affected in these moments. And that's why I feel uncomfortable. And that's why the next time I'm going there, I know like, oh, this is not my strength. Like, let's stand next to my friend, right?
Yet. Always
Yet.
I would suggest you to find a storytelling structure that you can shorten to really, really simplify and be quick with it. I told a story in the beginning. It lasted longer than I probably tell a story for. But stories are the biggest way for you to feel good and to connect with other people and share your experiences and then become more interesting to them as well. And they will naturally be like, wow, Tiffany's had so much experience in life and wow, they remember so many things. So find stories that you've got in your life. Start writing down a story bank, a bank of stories that you can tell. And then there's a really powerful way to be able to make it make sense to people, because there's nothing worse than a story that has no point to it, right? You're like, why are they telling me this story?
Really?
And
Just
a lot of
shut
people
up.
think, a lot of people think that stories aren't relevant in their line of work or in networking and stuff because they've got this idea that the story isn't relevant. It's not connected to what they're talking about. But if you use one single sentence and then connect it to anything you want to, it makes an impact. Would you like to know what that is?
Of course, I would like to know.
Let's get it. So in terms of, let's say you tell a story, I told my story about, growing up, I was overweight and shy, So let's say, I think I said in it, the story of coming to Dubai at 22 is another story. So I'll tell you a quick story on that. Is all right? Yeah?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. When I was 22, I had this grand dream to travel the world and become famous in music or something like that, right? I always wanted to connect, but I knew that at some point I wasn't going to be living in Australia anymore. And I got this random message on Facebook one day. On Facebook, randomly. Hey, Josh, do you want to come to Dubai? What? You know, it did not feel like I didn't call that out. I didn't look for it. I just got a random message. So naturally, I did it.
Yeah.
I got told that, okay, here's your tickets. You leave in 2 weeks. Like, okay, all right. Broke up with my girlfriend, got rid of my house, deferred my university degree, and I got to Dubai. And I landed in the Anantara, the hotel that I was staying at and performing in. And for the next 8 months, I was performing 6 nights a week. And that was training grounds for me. And from that sparked my entire life that I have today. But all that story isn't super important. The reason why I tell you this is because just like my uncertainty of moving to Dubai, and just like your uncertainty in meeting new people and hoping that you can present a part of yourself and connect deeper, I was missing a few skills or a few practices. Maybe you might be as well. And when you learn those things, it'll be very, very easy for you to connect.
What do you think?
By the way, I used the technique in telling you that story just now. Okay. So I don't even know what I was talking about, but I used a little technique. When the story got to a point, I had no point to telling the story yet. Just by the way, when I was telling you the story, I had no reason to tell you.
Yeah.
But near the end, I started to feel I was getting drained from the story, and I could feel that the story was draining. So I say one sentence. And the reason why I tell you this is because just like my experience of being find something indirectly, uncertainty, not sure how to connect it to yours, not able to connect. If you're able to learn certain skills, which I learned, you're able to have an incredible life. So when you're able to tell a story, you're able to continuously connect to people, and they feel like they know you on such a deeper level, and they've got more of a relationship with you. So I would suggest for you, learn to tell some more stories, because you've got a life worth telling.
What do you think, how important it is, how connected we are to ourselves? So, because there are a lot of techniques, a lot of things you can do, but the thing is sometimes we know techniques, but we cannot use them. Maybe we're there and we know what we should do. So, two-part question. So the first is how important it is to be connected with yourself. Maybe also what does that mean to you? And are there any practices you're doing at your events or that you recommend where you say like, okay, before we get into the skills, before I give you all the tools, we have to do X, Y, Z?
Yep. So the first question is how important it is to know yourself. Yeah. I can answer that in many different ways, I guess. The way I'd like to answer it is I think it's really important to know who you want to be. Because if I stuck with who I was or who I thought I was, and most of us think we know who we are or it's who we are, if I stuck with that idea that that's authentically me and that's all I am at my core or something, then I would not have gone on the journey to communicate, which means that I would not have gone on the journey and helping the people I help now. So knowing myself, there's a bit of a trick behind knowing who you are or just doing something long enough for it to be who you're currently being. And one of the things that we use in the events to get people to recognize that is the habitual voice. So the way that I express and communicate is based on a habit and a pattern that I've done for a long time. And that's created how I present and how I connect and who I, quote, am, end quote. And most of us are doing the same thing. We've practiced the way of being for our whole life that we think that's who we are. But if I change something about that, then that version is who I become. And for me, I think it's really important to recognize what you want to achieve in this world. And again, it comes back to intention. Who do we want to be rather than who do we think we are? Mm-hmm. Because if I'm not achieving the results that I want to get in life, or I'm not getting where I am, I'm not impacting the people I want to, then by being who I am, it's not going to get me any further. So yes, it's important to know who you are, but I genuinely believe that it's more important to know who you want to be and act as if you are that person, or at least towards becoming that person, because who we are might be the thing that's holding us back the most. Second part of the question was the techniques, was it?
Yeah. Is there a practice maybe you also do on your events where you say, okay, first we get into now who do you want to be, like writing it down or setting 3 goals or anything like that? So maybe also before going into an event, I first do that.
Yeah.
And then someone can use all the techniques and tools about communication.
Yeah. Yeah. The first couple of hours is actually based on that 100%. So for me, I use it in a way that's directly linked to the actual speaking later as well. So I do a quick example, like I'll do goal setting of 1 year, 2 months,
Okay.
1 month identity, and then we'll do the scripting of what are the thoughts that come up and write them. And you'll notice that I'm not good enough, la la. You write the opposite, and now you've got your own affirmations. We go through a little NLP section like that. But I like to use the explanations of the 3 different parts of the brain, but a really, really simple way of monkeys, elephants, and lizards. So monkeys are, the 5%. They chatter, they're based on questions, they're always questioning things, and you have emotion and logic. So the monkeys are always like, oh, I really want that pizza, but what about the calories? Yeah, but it's going to be so good. Yeah, but what about this? So they're always thinking in questions, right? But they think that they're owning the show. And then the way to be able to control them is to direct them towards a goal. What would it feel like if I got that? Amazing, but how am I going to get there? And they keep going back and forth to be able to get to that outcome. So you direct the monkeys with goals. The second one is actually who's running the show, which is the elephant. The memory, the long-term memory, the cerebellum, the part that's our unconscious mind gets stuck in hypnotic loops. So you have an experience in your life, you create a story around that experience, and then that creates a behavior in you that you repeat. So let's say that if I were to shout really loud now, it would shock you and scare you. And it'd be like, why did you do that? And we would have a disconnect. And then I would have a story from that moment that don't shout really loud in front of people when it's unnecessary because it's bad. So then my new behavior would be, don't do that, do this instead. And that elephant is now running that pattern. Okay, it's running that pattern, the elephant thinks in stories. So if I want to be able to change your mind and change your current course of action, I have to learn how to tell a story that can change that, that's bigger than the story that you have about why you do something. So we go through a full storytelling session where you use 4 different types of stories to be able to unlock different beliefs in people. You have your internal, external beliefs. You have the vehicle in which you use it. For me, it's public speaking. And then your epiphany about why it mattered to you and when you realize that something needed to change. And when you start to tell those stories, you start to alter their belief in themselves. So a lot of people have a fear of public speaking because they got in front of stage one time and they didn't do that good. So they created a story that I'm not good at public speaking and I'm afraid of public speaking and I'm not good at public speaking. And what we do the whole way through is we learn how to tell a better story around it, and we reassociate the feeling, which is every single time somebody gets up, we all can cheer for each other. So we're creating a positive environment for everybody. Once you start afraid, the end of it, you're excited to do it, right? We change that story in the mind.
Yeah.
And so the purpose of that, the reason why I tell you about the elephant is because most of us have stories that are guiding our beliefs. So you learn how to tell a better story and it completely changes it. And the last one is the lizard. Just really quickly, it's kind of like the fear thing. It's the fear brain. It's always speaking in absolutes. It's the don't do it, you suck.
Yeah.
You'll never be there. You'll never be good enough. You're this, you're that. There's no questioning about it. It's just you are. And your job is that when you're doing public speaking, when you're doing sales, when you're doing anything, people have that lizard brain pop up all the time. You can activate it with your tonality. You can activate it by, yo, what's up? Now your brain is thinking, am I safe?
Yeah.
Right? And my job is to learn how to calm that back down. And I can do that with my tonality. I can do it with my gestures, my body language, my intention. I can do it with a better story. But when you realize that people's lizard brain keeps getting activated, you start to need to learn how to turn it down. So we go through that session and that journey for a while. And the purpose of the whole session of goal setting, as well as understanding the brain, is that when you understand it, you can connect deeper with people. And it starts with you understanding it, understanding who you want to be, where you want to go with it, what you want to achieve with it, how many lives you want to impact. Because public speaking is so much more mindset in your mind, everything, than it is the techniques. The techniques are easy.
Yeah. So you talk now a lot about you asking people who do they want to be, what are their goals. And I would like to know, Josh, like you're sitting here and like you achieved a lot, maybe more than you thought you will achieve when you were younger, right? So what are your next goals? What are your things where you think like, yeah, that's who I want to be?
Long term, I want to have the biggest, not necessarily the biggest, but the greatest speaker training academy in the world. Mm-hmm. That's my goal. And I've told myself to be delusional for enough time to believe it. So that's me putting it out into the world. And it's not because I need to fill my ego with it. And it's not that I need to be the loudest. It's not that I need to be the face of everything, the most viral. It's because I know how much impact a voice can make when it's clear, when it's confident, when it's connected to a vision. And once you have that, that's what starts to make a difference. And I want this academy to be a space that's based on empowerment, integrity, identity. And it's not a place where people think that speakers are born, but where their voices are actually forged, where you create the voice that you want to create and create the impact that you want to create. My goal is to have an academy that's able to do that. So the next idea or the next goal and dream, at least for this year, is to open a center for it, where it's not just public speaking because it's only a piece of the puzzle, but community that spreads out. I've done other ones, I don't want to say the names, but I haven't felt connected to other speaker styles or community styles within it. It's too formal to me. I want something that's human, personable. Like when you come to these events that I run, the connection with the people is so beautiful. It's so lovely, honestly. The ladies come in the morning and they're just so full of joy for each other, and they connect after the event. They meet up, they start sharing stuff with work, and they give each other sessions for things, and it's really beautiful and supportive. My goal is to create more of that, to be able to have that ripple effect that is louder than I could ever be by myself. Because yeah, I could probably go viral or something, but I can have a bigger impact if it starts with me creating a whole bunch of different speakers. And that way I can actually make an impact.
What was one of the stories or voices recently that really touched you, or where you feel like, I'm so happy that this person puts out her words?
There was a girl over the weekend, her name's Cynthia. She was really, really lovely. The reason I'm using her as the example is because I see a lot of myself in her as well. I was a very shy kid growing up and starting to learn to use her voice. She was a singer as well, and I can see, because I'm hyper fixated on small things when people are speaking, just because I want to be able to improve it and help them and optimize it. And I can see tiny things holding it back. Like, at some point, she's learned a story that I need to smile all the time and be very, very light energy and very happy. So yes, you should smile when you speak. Yeah. Completely agree. But when it comes to public speaking, if you're trying to tell me a story when it matters and you're trying to make me feel something else, I can't be doing it like this, you know. Mm. I just remember I'm breaking down and crying and this, like, no, I actually want to feel that. So by the end of the weekend, she hopped up in front of everybody, and I just watched her. I'm like, you hit all the points. Mm-hmm. You made us feel all the feelings, and I can see big things for her. I can see her motivating the hell out of huge crowds and hopping onto stages and rocking it. Not because she needs to be like, his hair wants to be this, say I. Yeah, she can probably do that. But more the actual message and the connection that I believe that she could bring out in people.
Life is so crazy because it was a few weeks ago where I started mentoring for my social media. And I started with a friend of mine because he's a mentor in that space. And it was more like, okay, I love sharing. I love like the community I have. So I love social media for the connection, right? And I'm doing it since a long time, also podcasts, everything. And his first question was, okay, what is your next big goal? Because I always had the goal to have impacted 100 thousands of women's lives. My goal was to publish a book. My goal was to move abroad, and I achieved all of that. So, and I was like, yeah, of course I want to impact more lives, get it bigger, everything. But he was like, but there's something missing. Like something where you can't say you achieved it. What is there? And I was really starting to think about it because I was so focused on like, okay, I want to impact more people and everything. And I was reconnecting, especially with my inner child. And I'm like, I was dancing, or I'm dancing since I'm 5. So I know like performing, singing, all of these things, what it does to you. So for me, it was dancing. And I always loved that. And when I was a child and we were somewhere and I was a singer or anything, I was sitting like, here was the stage and I was sitting here and looking like that, right? I was always fascinating about it. And so I told myself, okay, it's the first time I'm sharing that, but I think it's so beautiful because it shows the alignment that also we have now while you're sitting here. And it shows the attention part, what you said, right? When you put out an intention, things are coming. So I was telling him what I want to create is like not a personal development event. I want to create a personal development show. So I want to tour like in a German space and having a show where people are coming and they're working on themselves, but it's also the feeling of like a concert, the feeling of like, oh, I went to a musical, you know, this fascinating thing because there was a story and there was music and there was like in it, but still they worked on themselves. So I want to create like a very unique personal development show, and including dancers, dancing myself, helping women to also dance, because my work started with giving dance lessons that empower self-confidence. I was never meant to be a coach, so that's how it started. So 2 days later, a friend of mine, we wanted to go to a place and was fully booked, and my friend told me, oh yeah, we booked something else. I didn't know where we're going. And I don't know if you know Gatsby here in Dubai, if you've ever been there. So basically it's like a dinner with a show, like there are singers, dancers, and it's like a whole thing. And the dancers and the singers were so good, especially the dancers. And it reminded me of like how I felt in that moment because they were dancing, the music. I was so emotionally touched, and I knew, okay, in this state of emotions, everything I will learn now will stuck with me, because it's not about what you tell people. It's about you have to open emotionally, and then you will understand what they're saying, right? That's why also working with stories, because with emotions and facts, you can connect them. If you would only tell us like 200 things now what we should do, no one would remember. But we will remember the monkey, we will remember the elephant, we will remember you singing and everything. So, and now you're sitting here, now we're meeting, and you're telling me, okay, you help people public speaking, you help people to go on stage. So I think all of this is just proving that if you have an intention, if you allow yourself to share that, like I was allowing myself to share, okay, yeah, I want to do a show in Germany. And I mean, then there need to be a lot of people. And now we're sitting here and it shows me the alignment. And if you share even with one person your voice, what you think, who do you want to be, things will change. Because with words you can change your frequency, you can change everything, who you are. And I think that it all starts with allowing. So if you allow yourself to do that, and you allow to say what you really want to yourself first, everything's possible. And life will give you what you need for that.
It's beautiful. Yeah, allowing is like a whole part of the parcel. So many people hold themselves back because they don't want to allow themselves to do something new. They need permission from themselves or from others. And I've always been a little bit weird with allowing. I just jump in and know it's going to suck or something, or know it's going to be great. Or I'm not sure what it's going to be, but I know it's the direction. And I do oftentimes see people when they're wanting to sign up or they're wanting to join and they won't allow themselves to change. And I don't try to force people to do anything. I can just see what's holding people back when I speak to them. And I'm not there to force or change anything. It's when you're ready, you're ready. If you're not ready, you're not ready. But so many people are so close to the edge to jump in and make that decision to change and allow themselves to change, and they just hold themselves back.
So if someone's listening and thinking, yeah, I'm like at this point where I feel like I want to change, but I still feel like something is holding me back, what advice would you give them? Or, I mean, you shared already a lot, but you know, the small part where like right before doing something, what would you like to tell them?
Imposter syndrome is normal. Holding yourself back is normal. I encourage imposter syndrome all the time because I see it as another word for growth. You have to be an imposter long enough for it to become who you are. It's the old fake it till you make it thing. It's part of it. I don't think it's the whole thing, but when you start to do something new, it will feel uncomfortable. You will feel like it's not aligned with who you are because it's not what you've been doing. And that's part of the job. That's part of the parcel. You can't have one without the other. I always look for areas in my life that I get uncomfortable, and I tell myself that that's exactly what I need to do. Even small example, I remember this one time I did a hosting event. It was one of the first ones that I'd done, and it's the only time I've ever done it like this, where I was representing the face of another company. They gave me a script. It was in front of 300 doctors or something like that. And I don't like scripts at all. So I did it my own way. And I remember just before hopping on stage, I'm in the back room practicing the script that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know anything about injectables and skincare brands. I know nothing, but I was pretending to be the expert face of the company as a keynote speaker, okay? Weirdest thing. It was fun. But I remember just feeling this fear before hopping on stage and thinking, like, part of me wanted to run. I started getting those thoughts, and I recognized that that's the body doing its thing. But as I started realizing that, I was so lucky that I caught myself. Luck, training. I'm so glad that I've trained myself to catch these thoughts of, you're not good enough for this. You shouldn't be doing this. This isn't who you are. And I saw that, and I just said, okay, clearly that's exactly what I need to do. So I started walking on stage and opened up the whole crowd and did the talk, the big standing ovation, all this stuff. And I realized at that point, I was like, I am more capable than I ever thought I was. And if I had have listened to that voice of, you're not good enough. You're not ready. You will never be ready. And if I listened to that and did what I wanted to do about who I thought I actually was, then that wouldn't have happened. And from that point, I've been able to do some really cool stuff with it. Being able to speak in front of thousands of people now in one go. It's big crowds, but it's a lot of fun. I would never have done that if I hadn't just felt that and kept going. So it's normal to feel scared. It's normal to feel not ready. It's normal to hesitate. It's normal to put things off. And the more normal that you create it, the more normals that you create in your life that keep you stuck. So I would just check, where is that also showing up in your life? What are the things that you haven't done because you're afraid? What are the experiences that you haven't lived because you're afraid? And the last question for you there is, you're going to get old one day. You're going to lay there on the bed. And it's not going to be the things that you did that scared you or that cause you regret. It's the things that you didn't do. When you know that at this point of your life, you could have just taken a risk and done it and learnt the new thing, trained the new skill, got a new speaker and coach, but you didn't do it because you're a little bit afraid. The thing that people say when they get to the end of their life is they regret the things they didn't do, not the things they did.
Yeah. I have one more question for you. I always ask that question because I'm choosing the questions out of my mind and out of my knowledge, right? So often when we're asking questions, we cannot ask the questions that are maybe the most important because we don't think about them. So is there maybe a question that I didn't think about that you think would be really, really important to answer?
For me?
Yes. So a question you wished maybe I would have asked you.
It's a good question.
Thanks. I love that question. Because I feel like it
It
opens
gets you
up
deep
a
into your
new
own
space.
insights, and
Yes.
you get to learn the person a lot deeper. That's nice. A question I wish you asked me that you haven't asked yet that might be important. I think it's more about why does anything matter? So I'll prompt myself like ChatGPT. I went through this stage of why anything matters because I think for me, I became very complacent at one point in time. When you start learning a lot, you start learning about yourself, you start learning about others, purpose, communication, discovery. You start learning a lot about life and you start to think you have all the answers. And I don't. I know in 20 years' time, I'll look at this podcast and be like, you're so young, Josh. And you start to get to a point of, what's the point of anything? And when you get smarter, apparently you become less happy generally. Okay.
That's so true.
Yeah.
That is so true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went through a phase of, what's the point of anything? Okay, look for purpose. Great. Awesome. Help people. Awesome. Make an impact. Awesome. And I went through this place of consistency and I stopped feeling anything about anything. I didn't really care. I wasn't depressed. I just wasn't lit up. I wasn't anything. And it came back to a simple sentence that I heard on Doctor Strange, actually. And it was the first time in a long time that I actually had an emotional kick to the chest for ages. The lady just dies. She's in this spirit form or whatever, and he's in his spirit form, and they go to each other, and she's talking, and she's talking about how she's seen her whole life and all leads to this moment, and that he has spent his whole life looking through a keyhole and failing to realize one simple truth. That's not about you. When I generally realize that, it's not about me. Realizing that I understand intellectually all the things, like, yeah, you should give back, you should give purpose, and you should make an impact, and all these things. It still made me realize, oh, yeah, but if I'm already there, then what's the point of anything? And holding on to a simple truth, and I call it absolute truths, will be my book in the future. What are the absolute truths that regardless of how you feel, regardless of where you think you are or what matters, what are the absolute truths that are able to get you through those points where you get stuck or you get lost? And for me, one of those is, it's not about you.
I love that. And I love that you said absolute truth, because the last question I always ask is like, what is a truth you would like people to believe, right? Because we all have our own truth. But maybe we can use that, right? To say, okay, the truth that it's not about you. And if you're holding yourself back, that's egoistic, because you could change people's lives, or because you're insecure, because you don't do the work, because you're not going outside, maybe people cannot reach the potential they could, because you think you're not good enough. That's like not because you're humble. It's because you don't use the gift that God or universe gave you. Josh, thank you so much. I knew it will be really, really good. And I'm so thankful that you just jumped in and like just was so, or let's say, I was so happy that with your smile, like just outside, you were inviting me to ask you to jump in, that I felt like comfortable enough to trust in your abilities. I mean, that's crazy. Like in a few seconds, I was like, yeah, this guy, he will be good enough to be on my podcast, right? Because I didn't know any of your skills, anything you're doing. So your energy and your questions and your presence was just like showing what you do without talking about it. And I think that's really, really impressive how you did that. And I learned so much today. Thank you for sharing everything.
I think that's a very, very beautiful compliment. So thank you. Talking about people's energy is my favorite compliment in the world. And speaking of alignment, can I just share one last thing?
Please. And also you have to share if people want to work with you, where they can find you. We can't forget that, but yes, please.
Well, you just mentioned that my presence was the thing, and I just finished the 3-day training that my event is actually called Master Your Presence. So it's really beautiful to know that that's a part and parcel of how I show up and stuff, you know. It's really
I
nice.
mean, you're
So thank
embodying
you.
what you're doing, and that's the sales itself, right?
Yeah.
So if people want to connect with you, if they want to find you, if they want to work with you, how can they do that?
Easiest way is on my Instagram, Josh McCartney Official. And yeah, I'm there all the time.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we will, as always, put everything in the description and link it for you so you can find everything. And if you liked the episode, please subscribe if you're on YouTube so we can have more beautiful guests on here. And also, if you're listening on any audio platform, please leave a review so we know what you would like to hear next and if you like the podcast. And we see each other next Thursday for the next Truth Thursday for the next episode of the To Me podcast. Thank you for being here. I love and appreciate you. Bye.